Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show. And today we've got a very exciting guest for me. We connected a little bit before we started recording on some things that are personal to both of us, and our opinions are similar. So it's always good to meet a common foe and friend. But Chris Naugle, he's out of Buffalo, New York, travels around the world and the country, speaking, sharing with people how they can really maximize their resources to get the biggest benefit out of them, get the biggest bang out of their time, their resources, money, relationships. How do we help them grow the most possible and have the maximum amount of peace and joy and just, comfort in their life? And so that's what Chris specializes in. We're so excited to have him here. And I'm super pumped because he really wants to help people become their own banker. And I'm going to argue that that applies not just in a financial sense, but in a life sense, like all areas of your life. How are you banking on yourself rather than banking on other people to support you, whether that be emotionally, spiritually, relationship wise? Like, we've got to figure out, how do we stack the cards in our own favor and become independent ourselves before looking outward for support? So, Chris, thanks for being on. Go ahead and share with us your story, maybe where you grew up, how you got into your first career, and then what led you to kind of dropping all of that, selling everything, and starting what you're really passionate about.
Yeah, that was a great intro. Thank you so very much. And I loved how you did that, because you talked about, BYOB, become your own bank. And a lot of people instantly go to money, which it is, but it's a mindset more than anything else. It's literally just changing your mindset on how you view things. So my story's a fairly interesting one. I started in a lower middle class family. My mom raised me. My dad was an alcoholic, and it was a huge struggle for my mom. And I'll never forget growing up. The one thing my mother did for me that was the greatest thing ever, and it's the reason I call her the unconditional one, is she taught me to dream. She didn't have resources. So it was always about, if I wanted something, it wasn't like I could ask mom for it or anyone in my family. I had to be resourceful. And every time I wanted, whether it was a skateboard, a snowboard, a dirt bike, what I would do is I would visualize it. I would put it on paper and draw it. And then even in school, I would be looking at what I wanted, and I would envision myself doing that. And again, it could be anything: skateboarding, BMX, snowboarding. It could be anything at all. And in doing that, every one of those things happened. They didn't happen because I got lucky. They didn't happen because I had the money. They happened because I never stopped dreaming about them. So that was my upbringing. And fast forward a little bit to when I was 16. I had been working on a farm up to then with my best friend's dad, and just affording gas. And then when I was 16, I got a big boy job. I was working at a restaurant, and the restaurant owner treated me so badly, literally degraded me every day, made me feel completely worthless and useless. And I remember one day I came into work. I was clinically depressed. I didn't take medication, but I didn't think I could do anything right. My grades fell. Everything was falling apart. And it was all because of the way I was treated at this job. Came in one day and I said, I quit. Now, I'm 16. I didn't know the relevance of this, but at that moment, that's when I quit trading hours for dollars. Came home to my mom. I said, Mom, I want to open a clothing line in the basement called Fat Clothing Company, PHAT. So right there, I got the DBA and I became an entrepreneur, converted mom's basement into my offices. And being an aspiring snowboarder, I want nothing more than to be a pro snowboarder. So this clothing line, the only function it had to do was to provide enough money so that I could travel to the resorts and compete. That was it. And over the next year, what I did is, traveling from Buffalo to Vermont and New Hampshire, where the contests were, I would take my clothing and sell it along the way. And I would do consignment at first, and they would order, reorders. And this little business started maturing. And I had my clothing in a bunch of stores across the Eastern Seaboard. And I was making not a lot of money at all, but enough to live my dream. At 17, I got my next big dream. I had seen all these shop owners living what I would call their perfect day every day. They had the shop. It was a lifestyle business. They were out snowboarding or skateboarding and doing the things they loved, and their business took care of the financial means. So the business was just a component of their life. I said, I need that. And all I need to have my own store is $70,000. Now I'm 17 years old. I need $70,000. And my only assets are a 1986 Buick Skyhawk, a dirt bike, a baseball card collection. And hey, if you call my snowboards assets, that's all I had. So I set out on a journey to raise 70 grand. And I heard, no, absolutely not. There's no way. Everything was falling apart, and I was ready to give up on this dream of opening Fat Man Board Shop. And then my mom saw this happening. And again, my mom's my unconditional one. And she came to me and she said, the only thing I have in the world is the house that we live in, which is a 700 square foot, 2-bedroom house that my mother still lives in today. She put her house on the line so that her punk snowboard son could chase his dream. Now, I didn't even think about it. I was like, absolutely. I was so committed to this dream. But looking back, like, that was a really stupid thing of my mom to do. She literally put everything on the line so that I could chase this dream, and I could have easily failed. Snowboard shops weren't really a thing back in 1994 when I did this. But I pushed hard, had many hard nights crying myself to sleep in the back of that store on cardboard boxes, wondering how I was going to pay all the bills the next day. But I made it. That store is still alive today. I don't own it. I sold it in 2010, but that's just what I'm saying. It's never about your resources. It's about how resourceful you can be and how big your dream is and the ability to never quit on it. So keep going, into the early 2000s of my life. Life was a dream. It really was. I became a pro snowboarder. I'm fulfilling every desire I had in my life of doing this until the .com crash hit. I'd never been in a recession. I'll never forget. I landed from California. There's a trade show out there. I landed in Buffalo. Literally the next day, I'm driving to my Orchard Park store and the planes hit the towers. And I had no idea. I mean, I'm just, wow, I just landed. That could have been me. But the recession made it so my business dropped 30%. I was highly leveraged. I had opened 4 stores, and I got to the point where I just had to get another job. I had no choice. I couldn't make ends meet. So I put my resume out, and I thought about delivering pizzas with Little Caesars. And the only companies that were reaching back out to me were none other than financial companies. So I'd interview with these companies, and I'd never had a suit on in my life. I remember my grandmother having to teach me how to tie a tie, and she had to get me a zip up tie because I couldn't figure that thing out. My first interview, I remember the guy, he's this boisterous guy at the end of the boardroom table. He slides the keys down. If you've ever seen the movie Boiler Room, I think he saw that movie too. He slides the keys across the table and he says, "You're going to make a ton of money." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm a yes. All right, let's do this." So I started down that path in the financial world. And, what was supposed to be a temporary thing turned out to be something I loved. I loved helping people. So at that moment, I had to mentally make a change. I'm a snowboard kid. I don't wear suits. And now I'm wearing suits every single day. So it was a weird mental thing. I literally bridged the gap with a company called Volcom. I would buy Volcom suits so that at least my suit was made by a skateboard company. So I still had that mindset of I'm not fully converting. And I started working on my business, Fat Man, and working instead of working in it. And I was working in Wall Street. And I did this all the way up to 2008, and I was crushing it. I became one of the top advisors for the firm I was at, which is one of the big ones. I won't use the name. And along the way in 2006 and 2007, I had flipped 2 houses, saw it on TV, hey, 23 minutes, you can flip a house. Let's do this. They didn't work out so well, but I at least found out that I could do it. And in 2008, right before the Great Recession hit, I had bought a dilapidated paint store that I was going to move my main Fat Man shop into, and I borrowed $370,000 from a hard money lender. Now I'm halfway into this project. I was already strapped, because every penny was going to this guy, and then the Great Recession hits. Now in life, we always have a direction we're going, and sometimes we're going that direction, and all of a sudden I got hit by this Great Recession. Now I'm going the complete opposite direction. It brought me to my knees, like getting hit by a Mack truck. That's what it felt like. I got to be one payment away from being completely bankrupt. And I come home, and my prized girlfriend, had just moved into my house. She was beautiful. And I went to her and I said, "Sweetie, I need your help." I'd never asked anyone for help like this. And I said, "Sweetie, I need you to help me pay the mortgage. I need you to help me pay the utilities. My friend Pete and his girlfriend Jessica are going to move into that bedroom down the hall. And my other friend Jessica is going to have to move into the bedroom upstairs. And it's almost like saying, any questions? I had a 50-50 shot of her just walking out of that door and never coming back. But I think she kind of liked me because she stuck around. She did help me get through that period. And I made it into, the next year. I was still hurt. But in 2009, I was always a Warren Buffett bought. I just loved the man. I thought he was the greatest investor of all time. And he was so simple in the way he explained things. And he always said, buy low, sell high, and don't lose money. Well, in 2009, I didn't have a lot of money, but I had credit. So I started buying real estate. So from 9 to 14, I got up to 36 units. And in 2014, I thought I was making it. Everything was back on track. I had sold my retail stores just because I couldn't do everything. I was so into the financial world and real estate that I couldn't do fat man. So I sold it off to one of my friends and his family, and they still run it today. And I was deep into real estate. I brought my 37th door, my 37th unit to the bank. The same bank that took me out of that strip mall, the same bank that had been lending me on all 36 units. And they said, no. They said, Mr. Naugle, you don't fit in the little square box called debt to income. You see, all the way up to this point, we can think we're so smart because we're doing things and we get a little bit of knowledge. But at this point, I finally realized that I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't really know how money worked. I didn't really know how banks worked. And I ended up having to sell all 36 units. I ended up having to sell the dream house, 171 Radcliffe in Gettsville. That was our dream house that me and Larissa had bought. And I had to sell it because I couldn't make it. The Audis in the garage all went. I bought a used Audi. I sold my bedroom set. I literally got so down and so to the bottom that I had to take a month-long trip to Thailand to literally regain who I was. I lost everything for the second time in my life. I lost my soul. I lost my girlfriend. Like, she was my fiance. She left. And everything was crumbling, and I was blaming everybody else for what had happened to my life. Not blaming the lack of knowledge. I was blaming the circumstances, the Great Depression. This person screwed me. That person screwed me. This bank screwed me. You see, that was my problem. And in this moment, I got a postcard, and I'm almost done with this, I promise. The postcard said, come to this 3-day seminar to learn how to flip houses. Now, I had already flipped houses. I didn't want to go to learn how to flip houses, but turn the postcard over and it said, come, stay for the whole thing, and we will give you an iPod shuffle. Well, I had nothing to lose. And I had an iPod shuffle to gain by sitting there for 3 days. So off I went. At this event, I met two people, two speakers that went up in front of the room, Mike and Greg. Mike had a TV show, on A&E, flipping houses. Greg was the bank. Young guy, both of them very young guys, extremely successful, worth tens of millions of dollars or even more today. And I listened to them talk about money, mindset, and what they were doing. And being in Wall Street up to this point, I think it was 13 years or so I had been in Wall Street. And I'm listening to these guys, and what they're talking about is the complete opposite of every single thing I'd learned as an advisor. So now all of a sudden I'm at this crossroads. I'm like, if these successful guys are doing this, why was I never taught that? Why was I never taught to do this? And I was taught to do actually the opposite. It made me question everything. I swiped my credit card for 23 grand that day. I didn't have 23 grand. They actually taught me how to increase my credit limit. I thought, this is it. I'm going to go right back down the tank. I'm never going to be able to pay this back. And that swipe enabled me to be in front of these two people, to meet their circle, to get around multimillionaires and billionaires. And instantly, because I was an advisor, I knew how to talk the talk. I started talking to them, all these other people at these masterminds, at these 3-day events, about what they did with money. And what I found is the most disturbing at the time, but the most unbelievable pattern. They were all doing the same things. And the same things were the opposite of what I was taught. And I literally just started becoming a sponge and learning this. Then I started applying that. And, so remember, I'm an advisor, so I'm getting to it. So me and my wife were flipping a lot of houses. I had an aspiration to have a TV show on HGTV, which we ended up getting in 2018. But you see, as all this stuff's going on and as I'm learning everything, I'm losing faith every single day of every single month in what I was doing for a living, which was being a financial advisor. I lost faith in that because I saw these things that were being done over here in the private world, in the wealthy, and it wasn't what I was teaching, and it wasn't what I was allowed to teach. So there was a weird correlation between these two. And in 18, we got an opportunity to get this TV show. And my broker dealer said to me, he said, hey, you got a bunch of OBAs, and for those listening that are advisors, you understand outside business activities. You had a bunch of them because I had real estate companies. They said, you have to make a decision, Mr. Naugle. Either you're going to be a financial advisor or you're going to be a TV show star. Mm-hmm. See you later. Yeah. I found a guy in my office who had been talking to me because he knew I was like kind of checking out, and he had been talking to me about buying my practice. And I had a nice practice. I managed a lot of money. We were, an RIA. So I was an IAR for an RIA. And at that moment, I didn't even think. And sometimes you just go with the gut feeling, right? In life, everything that you will need will come to you when it's the time. The real determination is, do you take action on it? And I knew at that moment, everything was lining up, and I took action. I sold the practice. I let my licenses go. I had all of them. I let them all go. And I went down this journey to have this TV show and to start doing the things that I had been doing that I learned from all the wealthy. And the TV show didn't end up going. We didn't get past 6, we aired 6 times. And after that was over, and I thought my life was over, but really the next door opened, and that gets me to where I'm at today. And today, that's what I do. I teach people, different techniques that I learned along this journey. So sorry I went long with that, but I get carried away, and I just have so much fun telling that. No, I so appreciate it. I have so much here. There's no way, and this happens with every guest, and I wish there was a way to make it not happen, but also I'm glad that it happens. So it's like this push or pull, but I love that I have way more questions than we're going to have time to answer right now. So fantastic. Thank you so much for being so detailed and sharing that story, because I know there's people listening who are going through the same thing, and it may not be in the financial world, but at some point people lose faith, or they lose the fire, they lose the desire, whatever it is in what they had chosen for their career field. And then it's like, well, what do you do? Where do you go? And sometimes, you were lucky enough that you were losing faith because of you were finding another dream along the way. Sometimes people just lose faith, period, and they have no idea where they're going next. They just know they aren't passionate about that anymore, whatever that for them is. So I want to go back to, though, in the very beginning, I think some things were similar. So I was actually raised homeschooled. I'm the 7th of 11 kids, and I would also attribute my mom. So my dad worked nights, he at one point in time, both my parents were Pizza Hut drivers, and my mom was working. My dad was primarily home, and then that flipped. My dad started working for CenturyLink, got an office job, and for pretty much the rest of the time, my mom was home and was raising us and educating us. And the thing that your mom taught you, that you can do whatever you want and be successful at, that's what my mom taught me as well. And the interesting thing is, anytime I would change my desire, right? So going back to like when you lose faith or you lose interest, she would just go to the library and get new books about whatever I was interested in that month, and we would just read all about becoming an airline pilot. And we'd get computer systems, whatever we needed to do that. And then it's like, okay, let's go to landscape architecture. Maybe that's interesting. So we'd do that for a month. Nope, that's boring as hell. So but I was taught through options that literally it doesn't matter what we choose. If we choose to be great at it, we will be successful. Love that. And at 11 years old, I had decided that I wasn't really interested much in doing homeschool anymore, doing homework. And so I had switched. I told my parents this, and they said, well, you either have to go get a job or keep doing homework. So that's when I got my first full-time job doing honey extracting at a honey extractor. Honey extracting, like honeybees? Like honeybees, yeah. That's fascinating. The slides, cutting it off, throwing it through a big steamer. It was the whole works. It was interesting. It's hard for me to imagine. Now I look back and I see 11-year-old children, and I'm like, I don't know how, anybody trusted me around literally steam that could cut through your skin in seconds, or moving 55-gallon drums of warm honey on a doll. At 11 years old, I was doing this. So it's so hard for me to fathom that happened, but I know it happened. So it's
because I lived through it. I know it happened, but it's hard to like see other 11-year-olds. I'm like, I don't know. Are you big enough? I don't know.
Gosh, I think I was 14 when I was working on a farm. We'd pick corn in the morning, pumpkins in the afternoon. Then we'd work in the animals, the cows, the pigs. I mean, it was terrible work, but like, hey, it was just like, that was the means to get what you wanted. Right. So it didn't matter whether it was, dealing with, honey or, cows or corn. It was just a means. And I loved it. That sounds like you did too.
Yeah, no, it was fun. And before that, when I was 6 years old, I remember, so I don't know if you remember if you guys had an old Snapper lawnmower. So these are like solid metal. They shoot that stuff right out the back, right? And I didn't have money for soccer. And so my mom said, well, if you want to play soccer, you have to go earn some money. So I would push that thing up and down the street and go cut grass, and it would just shoot the grass right into your face. But at 6 years old, I was earning money for $50 so I could go play soccer. Anyways, it's just funny that the lessons you learn at that young age, you think, it sucks. Honestly, while you're going through it, you're not very positive about it. At least I wasn't. It was like, this is not the funnest thing. But the lessons that it taught me later on, I love that you were taught visualizing. So similar here, you probably heard of the movie The Secret.
Absolutely.
Okay. So my parents, they went to Europe for a month when I was 13, 14 years old. But we had this DVD of The Secret, and we would watch that 3 or 4 times a day. Just constant, like that was our homeschool for that month. It's just watching this video 3 and 4 times a day. So like the visualizing of doing and being is so important. In your experience, because I know you coach some people, and I don't know how much of the coaching is like lifestyle mindset coaching, to help them get to where they can actually earn money. Because the biggest thing when it comes to trying to accrue wealth that I've experienced is the limiting beliefs that wealth is bad, or that they shouldn't be able to earn it, or they aren't doing enough work to justify the income or whatever, right? They have all these limiting beliefs. How often are people actually visualizing them doing and being what they want to be versus, like, if we're talking percentage of the day, even the people who are good at it, and they're like, okay, I'm going to sit down for half an hour and I'm going to visualize me doing being good. In my experience, until they can really get in the habit of it, the rest of the day, the other 23 and a half hours, is visualizing them doing and being not who they want to be. So speak to that a little bit, because I think that's a huge thing when it comes to building a legacy or building something that you're actually proud of, making sure that you're actually giving it the right amount of time spiritually and emotionally and visualization wise to actually make it manifest in the future.
I will tell you the simple answer is absolutely not enough. I mean, seeing as though, I speak all over the country and help tens of thousands of people and have thousands of people that I work directly with, I see this. And one of the biggest things is mindset. We've been brought up to believe that everything works one way when it really doesn't. I mean, sometimes I call it the big lie. We're brought up in a society that teaches us to conform to what everybody else's beliefs are. And I sum it up with an Earl Nightingale. A lot of people know him, and he does this thing on YouTube, and it was a show, The Greatest Secret in the World, very much along the lines of what you were talking about with visualization and this. But he talks about a study of where they went around and they asked 100 20-year-olds whether or not they would be successful at the age of retirement. And it's simple to know what the answer is. I mean, 120-year-olds, of course, every one of them said, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. I'm going to be a billionaire. They all were going to be success. There was no question in their mind. So then you fast forward, let's just go to age 65. And we look at the statistics from the Social Security Administration. Out of those 100 20-year-olds that all said they were going to be successful by the age of 65, statistically, only 5 of them financially have made it. Only 1 of them is what you would call wealthy, but 5 of them are financially secure. How can that be that you take 100 20-year-olds that all say they're going to be successful, and you fast forward into time, and now only 5 of them have made it? Is it luck? Is it something else? Why is it that 95 of them are not financially secure, and most of them are very far from financially secure? Well, it's summed up by saying there's one difference, and that is it. You can really put it all onto this one thing. What did those 5 do that the other 95 did not do? They created their financial destiny. They created the life that they dreamed of. They created their perfect day, if you will, and they would not stop, would not listen to anybody else, would not falter or quit on that dream. The 95, what did they do wrong? It's not that they did anything wrong. They conformed to what everybody else told them their life should be. They conformed to what other people told them they should do. And when things got hard, they gave up. The only way in life to fail is to quit. 95 out of 100 quit. So when you ask that question, that's the answer. The difference is creation versus conformity. And it's very difficult because in life, we get kicked down. We get beat up. You heard my story. I got kicked down so many times. I wanted to quit more than anything. There are times in my life where I literally thought there was no other alternative other than quitting and listening to my mom, my unconditional one. But my mom saw me at the bottom. She said, why can't you just be satisfied? Why can't you just be happy? Why can't you just get a job? And I thought about it. Maybe I should. Maybe that's the easy way. Maybe I could just be comfortable making, $60,000 or $100,000 a year. Maybe that's all I need. And I could just give up on all my dreams of aspirations of serving and helping lots of people. But I didn't, because it just wasn't in me. It wasn't in my gut. It didn't feel right. Even if I did that, I would have never been comfortable in my skin. Just like now, today, I pretty much, unless it's a wedding, I refuse to wear a suit. For 16 years of my life, I wore a black, gray, or navy blue suit. And every single time I put the suit on, I forced myself to think, oh, this is who I am. It's never comfortable. Who I am is the guy that I was back when I was living my dream, that skateboard, that snowboarder. Doesn't matter whether I teach money, finance, legacy. That's who I am. And I have to accept that, and I have to be true to myself. And that is what I do today. So that's my long-winded answer to that question.
I love it. But I want to go deeper into this because at 16, you got this boss who's treating you badly. You become depressed and you quit your job. Now, some people say, oh, never quit, right? And I think that it's almost, it's the downside to English language. And I don't know any other languages, so I just suffer through English. And I'm too lazy to go learn other languages because it's not important to me, okay? But we have these words that have to be used in all of these different areas. And so context is really, really important. And on the one hand, you're saying, oh, they quit, right? Well, you quit your job as well. And so quitting actually, I think, is probably the best thing you can learn how to do. The question is, which things are the right things to quit? Now, going back into the bank on yourself philosophy, I have a similar story. When I was doing, I'd moved from the honey extracting and moved into laying brick. And at 13, 14 years old, I was running these crews, laying brick, driveways, patios, things of this nature. I was getting paid $7.50 an hour, and I was running crews of adults who had children, had families, whatever. They were getting paid $12.50. And so I went to the boss and I was like, look, dude, something's got to give, right? I got to get at least paid what the people under me are getting paid. Like, I'm not getting, this isn't working. And he's like, well, they've got families and you're just 13 and blah, 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 right? So he's got all of his justifications. And I'm like, look, you're going to pay me what I'm worth or I'm going to quit, right? Like, I can't continue to have my self-respect tarnished this way. Like, I'm worth more than this. So I was willing to bank on myself, right? So the bank on yourself is very important here because it's not just financial. There's a belief that you're worth more. And there's a lot of people who don't necessarily have that belief. Unfortunately, we want to help them get that belief. My main question is, you came into that conversation from a depressed perspective, from a perspective of, this is really sucky. I don't like the way I'm being treated, and more potentially, and from the story I heard, that's why I'm asking for follow-up, more of a depressed perspective. I came into it not depressed, but more of like I'm so freaking confident in what I'm offering that you're going to hate when I leave you. So it wasn't depression that drove me away. It was like, I know I'm worth so much more. You're an idiot for refusing to see it. Okay. So because some people, when they come into that conversation and they're depressed and they quit, it's really tempting to quit and check out and like quit, period, not just quit the thing that's causing the pain and continue following their dream. So how did you determine to progress into your dream rather than quitting and just sitting there dilapidated because you had a low self-image because of how you were treated?
Well, I want to go back to something you said before we get into the question. And you said, the quitting part, like where I said the only way to fail is to quit. Well, I did quit. I quit that job, which means I failed at that job, which was my destiny to fail at that job because I wasn't meant to be a prep cook or a cook. I hated it. I hated every aspect of it. And because I hated what I was doing, and because I knew it wasn't my calling, it was a means to an end for me. So me quitting that was the smartest thing. It was the best thing. Just like today, like one of the things that I'm very good at today, this didn't just happen to me. I learned this through mentorship and through books. I'm very good at focusing on the one thing that gets me to where I need to be. And I never lose focus of that. I stay in my lane. But to get to the one thing, what you have to learn is that the word no, saying no, is one of the most important things you can do. Because when you say no to something that doesn't serve your ultimate purpose, your one thing, you are able to say yes to the thing that does serve you. When you say yes to everything, you are saying no to everything else that maybe is better suited for where you're trying to go. So when you talk about quitting, I think everybody does need to learn how to quit. And that quitting doesn't have to mean you're quitting on your goals. That's the one thing you don't ever want to do. You don't ever want to quit on your dream. But you do want to quit or say no. I'm not going to use the word quit. I'm going to say no. You do need to learn what to say no to if it's not serving your ultimate dream. Now, there are times like you, honey, me cleaning pig stalls. It's not pretty, but hey, it was something I had to do to get to the next level. We all have to get to the next level. The question is how do we get there faster, smarter, and more efficiently? You said bank on yourself, right? Bank on yourself. That's exactly it. Whether it's financial or whether it's mindset, it's really relatively the same thing. You are the only one that's going to get you to where you want to be. The cavalry's not coming. And when you do think the cavalry's coming, guess what? Just remember that story of those 120-year-olds and how 95 of them didn't financially succeed. And it was because of that. They conformed. And that's really the basis of it. So you have to learn to say no in order to say yes. If you say yes to everything, because it's easy. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, I can do that. Oh, sure, I'll do that. And listen, like nobody will ever not take yes for an answer. It's a feel good, right? Oh, yeah, I'll do that. I really shouldn't have done that. I didn't have time. I'm not going to be able to do my best work because I'm doing too many things, but I think I can squeeze it in. I can work later. I can get up earlier. That yes stopped you from reaching your ultimate goal. So whether you want to say that being a yes person is the same as you being a conformist and conforming, it kind of is. Because when someone tells you to do something and you say yes, you are conforming to something that's maybe not your ultimate destiny. Now, this is pie in the sky stuff for some of you, but it can get down to a granular level and really what you need to determine. And here's one thing that I can't believe, and I never would have gotten here if I didn't literally have the ability to help thousands of people. When I ask people why they go to work, you get all sorts of answers, but the answers are almost always, well, because I have to. Well, I have bills to pay. I got a family to support. When I hear that, my hair on my arms stand up. I get so angry because, I want to look at them and I want to scream at them. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You're doing this because you in your mind have trained yourself to believe that you have to conform. You do not have to conform. Look at people now. They don't have to do anything. Like, I'm not saying that's the choice, but like, you don't have to do it. But let me give you another example. I love this story. Imagine like the worst job. And for me, like a terrible job would be work for a garbage company, work on the recycling line where the garbage trucks come up, dump a bunch of recycling stuff on a big conveyor belt. And, let's just picture there's two men sitting on that line. The one that's over on the other side of the line hates his job, hates getting up in the morning, can't wait to get home at the end of the day, can't push the hours fast enough because he hates his job. He's underpaid. There's nothing positive about this man's experience of his job. So he's miserable. Okay. Now that might be a crappy job. They dump the stuff on the conveyor belt and every once in a while there's dirty diapers and nasty things. And he's got to sort through it to find the good recyclable product. Now let's go to the other guy. The other guy gets up in the morning happy. He feels fulfilled. He's in a good mood. He's got the exact same job with the exact same pay, with the exact same hours, with the exact same terrible working conditions. He shows up to work, the poopy diaper comes by. It's like, somebody made a mistake. He throws it in the garbage and he's just going about his job. The difference is that guy, why is he happy? It's not because he's like a different person. It's because he views things differently. His mindset's different. See, that man understands that he is at that job to serve and do something amazing. Recycling, think about it. What are you doing when you're participating in recycling? You're saving trees, you're saving forests, you're making the world a better place. He understands that. He knows he's solving his job, this crappy job. He is solving a world problem. Every time he throws a poopy diaper out, every time he finds something that can be recycled, he is solving a massive problem. He is helping humanity. The guy on the other side only cares about himself. He doesn't care about going to work to solve a problem. If you put every job in the world under those same circumstances, and you realize that every job, no matter how good or bad it is, and everything you do in your life should be done for one purpose and one purpose only. And that is to solve someone else's problem or some other problem. If you go to work or you start your business or you do something because you're trying to solve your problem and it's a me world, you will never, mark my word, you will never reach your goals because you don't understand the universal principles of success. And the universal principles of success are not, I found this great investment. I met this great advisor. I did this great thing. No, it starts first with how you perceive what you do and why you're here. And you're here to solve someone else's problem. And if you do that, the Zig Ziglar said it best, right? If you solve enough people's problems, they will solve your problem. I am living proof. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from easy beginnings. I have had to struggle and fight and kick and scream and fail most of my life. But I now understand that the ultimate goal that we all have to do is to serve something bigger than us and to solve someone else's problem. And now that I do that unconditionally, I am in the world of service. It might be the money world of service, but it doesn't matter. I solve people's problems, which in turn solves every problem I could and will ever have. One last thing on that. Too many people go through life not even understanding what they're working for. What are your goals? I want a Ferrari. I want a Lamborghini. I want a bigger car. I want to go on vacations more. No, and no, that is not what it is. We need to think bigger. We need to understand why we're doing what we're doing. I want to retire someday. Well, what is retirement? It's a joke. It's a fantasy world.
The conformity.
It's a conformity. You're right. I had a mentor once tell me, and I was bringing him on as a mentor, and he asked me this question. He said, why do you work as hard as you do? And I gave him answer after answer after answer. And I got frustrated because he kept saying, absolutely not. That's not why you do it. And I'm like, okay, well, let me try this and I'll try this and I'll try this. And I got it all wrong. And finally he said, don't you do what you do in the effort of living your perfect day every day? And I said, oh yeah, that's it. He says, don't even do that. He said, I don't think we're going to be able to work together. He said, do you even know what your perfect day looks like? And he said, no, really, can you describe to me what your perfect day looks like from the second your eyes open and you take your first breath in the morning to the moment you lay down in bed and close your eyes? Can you tell me every step of your perfect day? I couldn't. He wouldn't bring me on as a client. He would not mentor me until I knew what my perfect day was. Now, some people would be like, well, Chris, just grab paper and a piece of paper and pen and just write down your perfect day. Do you realize how long that took me? No less than 30 days of working on it every day. Because your perfect day isn't something that happens in a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. It's something that you literally better think really hard about because that's what we're all working for, to live our perfect day. You can call it whatever you want, but to live on my terms, the freedom, all that stuff, it's your perfect day. If you don't know what your perfect day is, you can't get there. And if you do know what it is, all you need to do to get there is just reverse engineer it. It's so simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. And then the next step is, how do you live your perfect day every day? Because I don't want to live just one perfect day. I don't know if you guys have ever been on a cruise. You're listening to this. You're finally if you're going like a week-long cruise, about day 3 or 4, you finally let go of all the stress of life. 3 or 4. And then day 6 or 7, you're like, I got to get back in and I got to hit the ground running. So you really get like one day of relief, because the first 3 or 4 days you have to like train yourself to realize you're on a boat with no cell service and you can't do anything about anything that's going on. So you just have to let go of it. But then by 6 or 7, you got to start preparing your mind. Crap, all the stuff I'm behind on. I know I'm behind on it. So I got to get back on top of it. So 6 and 7, you're just like, your mind starts buzzing and starts the RPM start going up again. So like, it's not about just having a perfect day in my mind. It's about, how do I have a perfect life? Like, what would be my perfect day? Because I ask people this too. Like, if you had all the money in the world, you never had to work again, you consistently had $1 million or $10 million coming in, or 20 or 30 or 40 or $1 billion, whatever. You consistently had this coming in every month. What would you do? And the first thing, I'd buy my dream house. I'd buy my dream car. I'd buy blah, 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 blah. Right? I'd go to these places. Like, okay. And then what do you do next month? And then next month and then next month. They're like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, you got another million coming in next month, and another one and another one and another one. Pretty soon, you literally, like, everything you could possibly think you ever wanted is pretty much done in a year. Like, once you have enough money to do whatever you want and all of the time to do whatever you want, then what do you do? Like, that's what I want to know. Once you've got all of the spending and all the things you've been depraved of your whole life, once all of that's accomplished, then what would you do with your life? And let's skip to that point and start working on that, because that's what's really meaningful. All this other stuff, this is just like the things that you think you deserve or think you want, or think because you see somebody else have it, you want it. But the one thing, and like you said, the example of those two people, it's not necessarily that he's thinking of himself. Could be that. But it could also be that saving the world from pollution, just he couldn't give two buts about. Like, he just doesn't care about that. But he could really go be a social worker, earn less money, be in more dangerous circumstances, and be super fulfilled because he's saving children. So it really comes down to, what is your thing that you're passionate about, and don't allow other people to conform you away from it because it's a safe thing. So I want to hear from you. I know we're going to run out of time. I hate this. Oh, I love it at the same time. But through all of these transitions in your life, I know without a doubt, you had people who thought you were crazy and who were advising you to not do what you were doing. Now, it could have been yourself. It could have been your own doubts. My guess is there was other people around you who, out of love and concern and the best intentions, just like you said, your mom said, why can't you just be okay with where you're at? How do you overcome? What was your process, if you had a process, or what did you do to overcome those naysayers in your life to where you could confidently or sheepishly, either way, move forward with your dreams rather than allowing their opinions to bind you down to doing something you don't enjoy?
Wow, that's an awesome question. And, as you kind of progress in life, a lot of people need to understand that, an answer to a question isn't the important part. It's the question that's important. And that is a deep, good question. One that I have to answer with a quote first, but I'm going to start it with a quote. Will Rogers, he said one of the most profound things. Mark Twain said something similar, but he said, the biggest problem in America is not what people don't know. The biggest problem in America is what people think they know that just ain't so. My whole life, that one quote has haunted me, because I was always the person who thought he knew what he didn't know. And when you're there, it's called ego, just for some of you. It's a very complicated and difficult thing. And my whole life, obviously we have our best friends, we have our family, our circles we surround ourselves with. Well, so did I. I had my snowboard circle. I had my best friends, from when I grew up. But let me just use one best friend. So I was in this circle, and, throughout, my levels of success and different things, I was always in this circle. And there's one friend, actually several, that were always very negative. We're always the ones saying, oh, why do you keep doing this? Why do you put yourself through this? And my mom was kind of in there too, and my dad too. But all these people were always telling me, why do you do this? Why do you do that? You're crazy. That's stupid. And I would always start to believe their own stories, like what they would tell me. And many times it almost did get me to conform. Matter of fact, I bet you I did conform many times. And there was a moment, and I don't remember what happened. I remember I went to a mastermind, I think is what it was. And I got around people that were big thinkers, people that were literally, that understood their perfect day, that were chasing big things, that were solving big problems, and that were truly like in a different mindset, you could just see it. When you're around somebody that's truly happy, they're not happy because they're trying to sell you something. They're literally they're living their perfect day. Those people when you see them. You've all seen them. I got in that environment. Now, I hadn't really been in that environment prior to the snowboard world, because we were all living our perfect day there. And after the snowboarding thing ended, I went through this weird transition of trying to figure out who I was. Like, what was I meant to be here for? And I was in the wrong circles. But when I saw the right circles, I started to have to realize, well, I need to put myself around these people. And we've all heard it. Your network is your net worth, whatever. But I started surrounding myself with them, but I couldn't be around those people all the time. So then when I'd come home from these trips, I'd be in my old circle and I would be so high on everything that I'd learned here, like high in the world, knew exactly where I was going. I'd come home and all of a sudden I was brought down to the levels that I left with every time. And there came a point where literally I had to decide, and it was very hard. I had to decide to put these people, my circle that was bringing me down, these negative people, I had to put them in timeout. I had to put my mother in timeout. My best friend, Mike, had to be put in timeout. He still is in timeout. And it's not because he's not a good person. It's not because he doesn't love me and care about me. It's because he is not going to get me where I need to be. And that might sound selfish, but you know what? Again, earlier, I said, we all have to learn how to say no so we can say yes to the right things, so we can actually go out there and serve and solve bigger problems. The people you surround yourself with, right back to that Will Rogers quote, might be the most toxic people you can surround yourself with, not because they're bad people, but because they don't serve your ultimate purpose. And I will tell you personally, it is one of the hardest decisions you will ever have to make. But if you don't make it, you have to understand that you are probably not going to get past that level in your life. You're not going to get to where you want to be because they will not allow you to. And it's not that they're bad. They just don't know how to think the way you are. They don't know how to get where you are. They only know how they got where they're at, and they're stuck, and they're going to keep you stuck. So that's the best answer I can give you.
Yeah, no, I thank you so much. And it's absolutely true. Like I don't know about you. You probably have more friends than I do at this point, because maybe you just know more people. But like my friend circle is really like 3 or 4 people. And it's so small. And it's not that I'm scared to interact with other people, but it's just like I'd rather would not have friends, but the friends that I do have are fully on support of me going and chasing every dream that I have, than have friends that aren't on board with me. Like it's not worth it. And so I actually wrote a book called Fuel Your Legacy, the 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. And every section has 3 questions at the end of it's like a journaling book, but at the end of the chapter, it says, okay, who are these people? How will their life be better by your success today? And then what are 1 or 2 action steps you can take to make this better? And it starts out with your haters, because most of the haters
see my hat? Haters need hugs too.
Yeah, it's true. The reality is, the reason they're haters is because they don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they could accomplish it. And so by virtue of that, they don't believe you can accomplish it. I believe, and this is just my core operating belief, that people operate from the best intentions. I'm sure there's people out there who are malicious and trying to harm people. So I'm not like so ignorant that I don't think they exist, but I don't think I know anybody there. I think people are literally doing what they think is in their best interest and yours. Now, we may have disagreement as far as what's in our best interest, but I think that they're well-meaning individuals, most people. And because of that, your haters, the people who are holding you down, you have to see them for who they are, identify them. I have my team identify who their haters are, and they're like, well, they're people like this. They're people like this. I'm like, no, that doesn't count. I want to know Mike's name. I want to know Mom's name. I want to know Joe's name. I want their names, because if you can't be specific about who they are, then you are not going to be able to be specific about how your success will actually make their life better.
And that's powerful.
Crucial.
What you just said, that's so powerful.
Yeah, you have to know exactly how your success is going to make them better. So even though Mom or Mike or whoever these people are may still be in timeout, them being able, having the ability to witness your success, full on knowing that you both came from the same place, that cognitive dissonance demands that they reflect on their own choices. It demands it. They cannot avoid it. Every time they hear your name, they have to do one of 2 things: justify where they are, or ask the question of why they aren't where you are. And that is the power. And that's why I put haters first. Like, yeah, there's haters, and your believers, and there's your family and your faith and your country and your community and your clients and all those other people. That's all secondary in my mind, because the people who need you the most are the people who don't believe in themselves so much that they feel the necessity to make sure you don't believe in them or in yourself. Like, that person is in their own special kind of pain and darkness, and they deserve the most love and care and concern, in my opinion. So I didn't recognize your hat, but I love their hat. Haters need hugs too. And it's true. We just need to love everybody. I love it. So we are almost out of time here, but I do want to give everybody, if you want to kind of learn how to bank on yourself in multiple areas of your life, again, not just financially, but multiple areas of your life, I think you should reach out and have a conversation with Chris, because my opinion, and I work in money too, money is a great scoreboard. It's a great ciphering tool to understand somebody's life and their belief system. Like, when you look at how somebody uses their most prized resource, money, you learn so much about them. So when you are working with somebody who is using money as a tool to discern the areas of your life you can improve on, I think you're going to have the most success. So it's not that Chris just works with money. He works with humans, and humans are complex beings, and they need lots of areas to grow. So if you feel like you could grow and learn how to bank on yourself in either your family, your religion, your faith, your business, your emotions, your mentality, whatever it is, you heard his story, you know that he's got those capabilities all around, reach out to him. So where would they go if they wanted to get more of Chris and get in contact with you and see if they could at least be around you, even though they may not become your best friends right initially until they level up their mindset? How could they learn through osmosis from you?
Yeah, it's really easy. Just go to my website, which is Chris Naugle, Naugle.com. And, the best thing is, back in those hard times when I'd lost everything, I went to this mastermind at this guy's house. His name was Greg. And I asked him, I said, give me the best advice you can give me. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, my best advice is that you should give your best stuff away for free. Now, that made absolutely no sense. Matter of fact, I thought he was crazy. I'm like, dude, why did I even spend $5,000 to come to this event? But, sometimes in life, we have to understand that cost is only an issue in the absence of value. So what I do today is I give all my stuff away for free, whether it's my books, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, or Private Money Guide, or we just did our new book, Drifting Away from Traditional Car Buying. I mean, all these books, they're free. You don't have to buy them. Just go to chrisnaugle.com, swipe up and click on them and read and learn. Like, these are the stories and the journeys that I've gone through, and that I've, gone all the way to the bottom to learn and had to put myself. And these are things that most people in their lifetime will never learn. So I think the difference between, when somebody thinks that knowledge is power and I tell them, no, it's not. Knowledge absolutely isn't power. Reading my books, reading Samuel's books, it's not power. Application of the knowledge is power. So in order to get that knowledge that you can apply, you have to actually do something. So go to my website, chrisnaugle.com, get my books, sign up for our free webinars, free, you notice the word, not selling anything, and get around the campfire and start learning. And that will set you free, or at least put you on the right path. And just, take that advice that was given to me, give. Don't sit there and say, oh, I don't have, so I can't give. That means when you do have, you won't give then. You got to start now. You got to take action now. And the biggest way people reach massive levels of success is they solve somebody else's problem. And that's what you guys need to do too.
Yep, absolutely. Love it. So we're going to talk legacy on rapid fire, 5 questions, 1 word to 1 sentence answers. You ready to go?
I'm always ready.
Perfect. So what do you think is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
That one person.
One person. Awesome. What's the hardest thing you've ever accomplished in your life?
Becoming a pro snowboarder would probably be the hardest, because I was against all odds. So, and I'm in Buffalo, New York. There's no pro snowboarders coming out of here. So that was the hardest thing I ever had to do in my life.
I was going to ask you, you're snowboarding all these places you mentioned. Like, they don't even have mountains over there. How are you snowboarding? Like, it's like
good snowboard parks. I was
with freaking Thanks.
Listen, there's something to be said about the Scandinavian riders that have become the best snowboarders of all time. And they have hills, literally like hills the size of a garbage dump to learn on. But what they do is, because that's all they have, they focus so intently on becoming the best in their terrain that when they get to a place like Utah and they're riding snowbird, and it's just like, holy crap, what is this thing called powder? I've been doing all this on ice. Then all of a sudden they are the best, not because of any other reason than they had the worst conditions to practice on.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just funny. It was meant to be a joke. Like, I've been out there.
There are no mountains here. That's for sure. It's just little hills.
Yeah, it's funny. But so what would you say is your greatest accomplishment to this point in your life?
The greatest accomplishment, I think, is, having my daughter, I think, is my greatest accomplishment. I have a 13-month-old, and my whole life, I never thought I'd have kids, and now I do. That's single-handedly my greatest gift to the world, is that.
Awesome. I love that. What if there was one secret habit, mindset, or behavior that you think has contributed most to your success? What would that be?
Unconditionally giving. It's easy.
Okay. And what is one or two books that you would recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Okay. Think and Grow Rich. Definitely that book. And probably the second one is The One Thing by Gary Keller.
Okay. And then because some people feel awkward recommending their own books, say your books, because those are obviously good, and you wouldn't have written them if you didn't think they were good. So,
Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery. That's the one, all about, becoming your own bank and the secrets of the wealthy. The Private Money Guide, which is all about private money. And this little mini book that we just did, we just give this away for free, and all of them are free, but it's called Drifting Away from Traditional Car Buying. It teaches people how to get all the money back for all the cars they're ever going to buy, drive, and own by changing just one thing.
Awesome. I love it. And then this is a final question. This is really the reason I do this whole podcast, and I do it at the end of the show to prove a point. Okay. And if you've never listened to a show, then this is brand new for you, which is fantastic. But we are going to pretend that you've died. We're 6 generations from now. So this is your great, 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 great grandchildren, probably 100, 150 years from now. They're sitting around the kitchen table discussing your life, the impact you had, and the legacy that you left in the world. What do you want your great, 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 great grandchildren to be saying about you 6 generations from now?
Granddad or great, 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 great granddad served this family by teaching us how to be in control of our money. And because of that, we get a check every month that right in the memo says from Grandpa.
I love it. That's so cool. It's just like, hey, I want to be remembered this way. It came from Grandpa. And hopefully you're creating a way that they, it's guaranteed that they do smart things with that as well, which I'm sure you will.
That's the easy part. You know that.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Hey, well, thank you so much, Chris, for taking time today and joining us on the Fuel Your Legacy show. Go and absolutely go check out his website, chrisnaugle.com, and check out his books. I mean, everybody who wants to pay for their cars, if you can get that money back for free, why not do that? And it's a way better option. And so many more, I'm sure, just because I know we're in similar realms of thought and career, then I think that everything he has would be valuable for everybody who wants to check it out. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy show. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.